Hey everybody, it's Steve here from The Beard Life, and today I'm going to show you how to prep your pictures for engraving on metal, or actually a number of different objects, materials. And we're going to be using the image-r.com along with Lightburn and our K10 that is pumping along as we speak. What we're doing is another metal engraving. I found another cool looking graphic, so we're going to do that. And since this is going to take about 4 hours and 48 minutes and counting, what I decided is that I should probably do a video to show you how I process the images. And it turns out it's pretty good, because there's one way that you can do it. You find a graphic online and you're like, hey, that's really cool, and you drag it into Lightburn and you try to print it. It doesn't come out as well as you thought it would. You get frustrated, and hence you start banging your head. Well, I'm going to show you a way so that you don't have to bang your head, and let's get into this. So the first thing being is we're going to take a look, and this is the current project that we have going on. Now, this is a Warhammer-esque type of graphic. And this is going to turn out really good, because what I ended up doing previously, if you look over here, is this was a metal engraving that I had done on a little stand here. And yeah, it just came out hot. I mean, really, really good. But it didn't come out really, really good until I learned how to process the image in the way it should be. So, with that being said, we'll just go ahead and we'll let that continue. And what we're going to end up doing is going over here to this web page, which is imag-r.com. I guess image-er.com was taken. So you can prepare your images here. And the first thing you need is an image. So we've got a number of images here, and what I want to do is I want to take this one, and so all I'm going to do is drag this to the page and drop it in. The cool thing about this is, boom, there it is. And you're going to go through a number of steps to process your image for certain materials. So step number one is you're going to upload. Step number two is you're going to crop the image, because many times there are images that are has too much on the side, so that'll it might run over your engraving area. So that can happen there. The other thing that you're going to end up doing is resizing the photo. I don't really worry about that, because usually I try to get large graphic photos. And if you want, you can add some text, and then you can choose the material that you're going to engrave upon, which could be wood, could be metal, acrylic, glass, a number of things. We'll take a look at that. And then you can download the image in the needed file format, which can be JPEG, PNG, and there's something else, BMP. So what we're going to end up doing, oh, I forgot a step. So let's go back here. I downloaded this, and this is the 40K Knight, and he's got a sword and a pistol. And what we want to do first is remove the background. Now, I'm working on a Mac, so what I'm going to end up doing is right-clicking, and I'll go down to Quick Actions and remove the background. Now, this is going to make a duplicate, but all the space that's in white is going to be removed. Now, that's a very important step that you want to do, because if you don't remove the white background, your laser is going to think it's a background, and it's going to print that or engrave it. And so you'll end up with this big, huge box when all you wanted was just the figure. Trust me, I did it the hard way, so you don't have to. So now we're going to go back. I almost forgot that. So now we're going to go back and to this page, and we're going to drag the background removed photo onto our image-r.com. And there we are. And what we'll end up doing next is to go ahead and hit crop. And this will pop up, and just like any other cropping thing, you can, left, right, up and down. You have the corners or the sides or whatever, so you can really kind of get it as accurate as you can. Now I'm going to try to get this as close as I can because I only have 80 millimeters by 80 millimeters on my printer or my engraver. And so if it's any larger than that and it kind of runs over the sides, it's a waste of space. So we continue that and we'll scroll down, and you can even round the corners. So if I rounded the corners, you could do something like that, but the problem is that's going to cut out a part of our sword. So we'll just go ahead and we'll leave it as is, do a quick double check, and we're good to go, and we'll go ahead and hit crop. This is going to go on to the next step, and it will show your width, your height, and your DPI. And you could resize it if you want. I don't want to. You could add text if you want. I don't think I want to add any text because he's awesome as it is. So we're just going to skip and go to material, and we have different types of things that we could look at. So old, we have Norton, we have CO2 for CO2 lasers, banding, cork, acrylic, it's got all these different things. And what I found out is I just go old. I'm old school, so we're just going to go old school, and we're going to go for anodized aluminum or aluminium. And this is the type of metal that I'm engraving on right now that I was doing before, where I got the awesome, how that turned out. And it's got it's plated or annealed on the aluminum or steel or whatever it is, but this seems to work out well. So the anodized aluminum, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to hit OK. Now we've got some other selections. So now we see some options here, and we got some pretty good. So this is the original graphic with the background remove, and over here on the right is what we're going to be looking at. And it's automatically processed for that material, and this setting for anodized aluminum works good on this steel or aluminum or whatever the hell it is. I mean, it's kind of heavy. I think it's steel, but it's plated metal. It'll work out just fine. Now notice that the image is not the exact same, because what we want to end up doing with this when we're printing on a dark surface and we want to remove that dark color and reveal the shiny metal underneath, we want to invert or do a negative of that picture. Now you can go through a number of steps and try to do it on your own. In Lightburn, it actually has a feature where you can do that. But to be honest with you, I've used Lightburn with adjusting the image and doing the negative and playing with the contrast. This image R has more adjustments that you can do, and I get better results with the imageR.com than I do with Lightburn. So, excuse me. So we can go down here and we can invert it and change it left or right. We have some different levels. I've never messed with that, so we're not even going to go there. And we can do an auto adjustment, we could do color correction, we could do gamma adjustment, but for the most part that looks pretty good. And you could do a one touch, which is right down here, and if we click that, what it'll end up doing is processing the image, and we will see what we get. So it's so-so. So it'll do some things there, but I'm not sure if I like that or not. So what we can end up doing is we can always go back, or we could reset. So we're just going to go ahead and reset, and we could go through. And normally what I end up doing is the contrast. And to give you an example, the contrast, we'll take it down 77, and we can see that it kind of lightens up pretty good. If we go up in the opposite direction, it's going to end up being a little bit more darker in those dark areas, as we can see there. And let's just take that to about 55. And you can play with these on these different settings. The contrast, the gamma adjustments, So like if we do the gamma and we go down, and I go from one extreme to another, and I look at some fine details. So like the fine details on the helmet, and you can see the gamma adjustment way down, that just totally blows it out. So if we go up a little bit, let's just go to 2 and see what we get. And what we're looking for is a balance between the black and the white to where we can get a highly recognized image and get some of these details in here. If we go even higher on this, let's say 2.9, and it really comes down to what do you think would look good. That's not bad there, but I'd probably take that down to 2 for gamma. And we'll see how this turns out. Dun, dun, dun. And we got some pretty good details. And now we can go down to contrast, we can go down to brightness. So remember, the image is the negative, so if we increase the brightness, like we go up here, what we'll end up getting is a lot darker picture because it is a negative. So we'll see how this comes out and see how things got a lot darker. So if let's take this down to, I don't know, like 50, and we'll see how that turns out. Because the thing is, this will engrave on that metal and reveal the shiny underneath. So it's kind of, again, it's a balancing act. So you can see the areas on the sword over here where it's kind of white or light colored, and over here on our adjusted image it's a little bit darker. So that's kind of what we're going for there. I could do some denoise. It's hard to tell the difference with the denoise, but that's not bad. Sharpen, I've never really played with the sharpen. Pretty much just the contrast gamma, maybe even the color correction, but that's just a run. Let's see, maybe we should do, you know what, that's almost, I think we do 55, see how that turns out. I mean, this is a great way to do it. And we can see on the picture, we can see as Aquila, that stuff that comes out fairly well. And again, all of this that's in white is going to be dark color. And then all that's dark is going to be engraved, so it'll actually show up as being the lighter colors. So again, the image is reversed or in the negative, and it's great for engraving on dark surfaces. So once we're happy with that, then we can preview with the material. It will load this up. And the great thing about this is on this black background, we can get a real good representation of what this is going to look like. So you could go through and you could adjust to your heart's content, going back and doing the preview with material. Like let's say we take this up to 75 for our contrast. It'll process that. And then we could go down to preview with material, and you can see if we can pull some more details out of here. So anyway, that's it. I think we'll be happy with that, because when we look at our Lightburn, it's kind of similar to what we have there, which is pretty darn close. I think the one we're doing on ImageR is just a little bit darker, but that's okay. And once we're done that, then we go over here to download, and we click download. We have the option of BMP, PNG, or JPEG, or GPG. And usually what I end up doing is downloading the PNG because it gives us that removed background, and it just seems to work well. I have not used the BMP or the JPG or the JPEG. I haven't done a DPI test, so if we click that, choose an area you want to see different DPI values. Since I'm new to all this, I don't really care. So we're just gonna leave that the way it is, and we'll just go ahead and hit download, and we'll download the PNG file. So this pops up, And now what we end up with is, this is it right here. And there is our file. So what we can end up doing is dragging this in to Lightburn. And what we end up with on Lightburn is that it comes in here, and then we can do all the settings. So for example, I mean, this is currently printing out, but you could go through, you set your speed, your max power, line interval is 0.05, which works well with the K10 that I have from Wainlux, which gives about 508 dpi. And then what I found that works best out of all these options of threshold, ordered, Atkins, dither, Stuckey, Jarvis, newsprint, halftone, sketch, and grayscale is that the dither works really, really well. And again, that's what we ended up doing, is using the dithering on this. And we got some real good results on that. So you can change it to whatever you want, but yeah, it's some trial and error, and so you can do some small test pieces. So what I ended up doing is, you know, I even ran some of this stuff on, let's see if this will focus. You know, so I ran some of this stuff. This is a negative image on the basswood, but this turned out pretty good. And you can just run different test pieces there to see what it'll look like, and you can go from there. So you can pick different materials, but also know that you can make adjustments for the speed and the power and all of that stuff. And if you have a library, you could also pull that up and pick the ones that you want. So don't feel that this image can only be used on that one material. If you have a material library, you can go to that. Again, it's a negative, so just keep that in mind. So yeah, that's what I end up doing for processing that image. And what we ended up doing is just taking all of this, the settings that we had here, and, you know, with the speed of 150, blah, 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 all of that. And what I ended up doing is to create new from layer. And when I click that, it comes up with another screen that says, you know, enter the title, enter the description, and so on and so forth. And so I was able to add this to my current library, 5-watt K10 on aluminum or plated metal, whatever it is. It's I know what it is because it's the K10. And yeah, it just works out good. So if I come and let's say I want to do another one of these, and somebody comes along and says, hey, I want you to do the same thing, use this graphic, and okay, great. Then what I can do is go down here and I can blah, 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 blah. Okay, I can bring the image into Lightburn, and then when I come down here to the library, since I already loaded up all the presets, I can click that, and then I can hit assign, and it will automatically populate the speed, the power, and all the settings. And then I can just go to my laser, I can frame it, make sure that my material is centered, and once that's good to go, click start, and we're off to the races. So let's take a look and see how we're doing on our engraving. And it looks like we're doing okay, as we can see here. And I think what I can end up doing, let me see if I can zoom in a little bit for you. And because it's engraving on metal, that's why we're getting these the light flashing and so on and so forth, because the laser light is burning off that dark color from the steel or metal or whatever it is, and then that laser light is kind of bouncing around, and so that's why we're getting those flashing effects. You don't get that much when you're doing porous materials like wood, but when you do more reflective materials where the laser can bounce off of it, yeah, you'll get that. So if you're kind of wondering why that looks funny, that's the reason why. Now you'll also see where the laser goes on and off. What's happening is that the laser is laying down a line, and then when it turns off and then turns back on, what's happening is that it is skipping the part of the background. that isn't there, which kind of, if it makes sense, maybe this will make it clear as mud. Here is the preview of the item that we're doing. So basically what happens is that we go along this line, and the laser is going to go along the line, and where it's in red, that's the path of the laser, and it's shut off. But where we see the other colors, the laser will fire. So from here to here, nothing is being engraved along this red section here, from here to here. So what happens is the laser's engraving, and then once it finishes engraving, it turns off, and then it jumps over here, and then it starts engraving again and going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, doing the layers kind of similar to 3D printing or something like that. So yeah, if we take a look at this, and we actually have a playback speed, we'll just put it on 40, and we'll hit play, and that is the path of the laser going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Or you can end up just taking the slider and you can go a little bit faster, and you can see how that image is going to be engraved on that material until eventually it's done. So we're looking at about an estimated time of about 5 hours. So this is a great little tool to be able to process images on darker objects or materials and get a real good nice engraving on it. I mean, this thing turned out incredible. I love it. And man, like I said, I'm doing another one of these, and that's what this image is going to be. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how that is going to play out. But the great thing about this is the image imag-r.com website that we saw, and being able to bring your image in there, and then you can crop it. You can end up, crop, I don't know, text, resize, whatever. Pretty much just crop, and you can add text if you want. I usually don't, and then just go straight to adjusting or picking the material that you're going to use that photograph on or graphic, and then you can make those minor adjustments with gamma, with your contrast, your brightness, and some of the other settings. Sometimes that one-touch button does really well. Other times, it's a little, leaves a little to be desired, in my honest opinion. Now, it should be noted that Image R software is free, but, and we'll take a look at this, it's free, but you have 3 free daily uploads remaining. So you get limited amounts of these uploads and downloads of this item here. And where did I go? I'm gone. Oh, bring me back. Okay, there we go. But it's got a number of other things that you could do on here. So you could do contour. You could end up doing a puzzle. So if you upload an image, and then you could do your tabs and your angles, the size of the piece and the radius, and you could pick the number of pieces on there. It's just kind of a cool little thing, 5 by 8 pieces. And so you could have an image and then have your laser cut out a jigsaw puzzle of that graphic that was engraved on that material, and you can make your own little jigsaw puzzle. You could do some masking, which, you could do some cool stuff with that. I haven't done that. Background removal, in case, now I haven't done this, but you can do background removal on this. I just find it's a lot easier just to, especially on my Mac, just to right click the image, and with that quick action where it says to remove background, and it's good to go. But you can cartoon, you can enhance, you can vectorize, color correction, sharpen. You can do a number of other things here. And then if you look up here, you could also take a look at their free images. This will open up laserpics.com, and you can come up with some pretty cool graphics in here, and you could download, and maybe you could available only with the license, so you can buy a license or whatever. I'm not too keen on that. But yeah, this is pretty cool, being able to have an online source to process your pictures to engrave different materials. Now there is, noticed over here it said pricing, and I'm like, wow, pricing. So obviously they have a version of this that can go on your computer. I hate subscription plans. $15 a month, offline access, online access, updates included. I hate subscription stuff. I'm more of the I want to buy once, cry once, and I want to own it. You could do 6 months in advance. You could do a 1 year for $100, or you could do a lifetime legend. Oof, $429. But that's lifetime access. I don't know if it would be worth that. If you could probably find some other image processing software for free and do the same thing. But for what I'm doing with my little laser hobby stuff that I'm doing, 3 downloads a day or whatever, it's good enough. So yeah, just kind of that's all we got going on. So anyway, that is what we have when we're talking about doing our downloads and or processing our image and downloading those and making them compatible with the materials that we're engraving. And so, like we ended up seeing, we're getting to the part of where that is looking kind of good. Yeah, I think that's starting to come out good. We're actually to a point now where if we look on here, down here, we're right down here at the bottom where it's starting. That's where the laser's at right now, and we've been running over here for 36 minutes or so, and we got about 4 hours and 22 minutes remaining somewhere, so we got that status over here. But yeah, Lightburn is awesome. I like Lightburn. The more you play with it, it's awesome. You can have multiple devices on it. The thing with Lightburn is you get a 30-day free trial with it. So that's what I'm doing. I'm like on day 25 or whatever. But yeah, I like it. It's user intuitive, at least for somebody who has a computer and electronics background. It just seems really good. And if you've used some graphic software before, and then about opening a new file, new project, open a file, save. You got the do, redo. You can cut, copy, paste, trash. You can center some of the items in here. You can do your preview to see what it's going to look like. You got some device settings on here. Oh, this is very interesting. So you have some machine settings here, and units and grids. You can set it, millimeters or inches, which is pretty nice. You can look at the display, import, export, camera if you have it, but I don't. But one thing I've noticed is that if you do a project and you're like, hey, this is only like 80 millimeters by 80 millimeters, and you do the preview, and like now it's like the estimated time is basically 5 hours. But when I had to reload Lightburn, and when I processed this image down here in the bottom right, it didn't say 4 hours and 58 minutes or the estimated time. It was like 10 hours and 50 some odd minutes, and I was like, holy crow, what's going on? Well, it ends up that if we go to the device settings, this was unchecked. And so we have the fast white space scan. So the white spaces is that space where it's the red and the laser is not engraving on the material. Well, if you don't put and enable this fast white space scan and enter the max speed of your laser, what will happen is it will default to the speed of which you're engraving. So the engraving speed is 150 is what we're doing. So that's why the estimation and the time of completion basically doubled, is because all those areas that is not engraving, it's going at 150 millimeters per minute. So it's going the same speed as the engraving. Well, if you're not engraving, you might as well put the pedal to the metal and go fast and, go fast or go home. So make sure you enable the fast white space scan and set the max speed on there. Obviously, there might be some diminishing returns if it's super fast because the engraving head has got to move and there's some momentum and whatever. So just keep that in mind, and you might want to do a test of that. But yeah, that's kind of an important thing here. And then the other thing is the S value. I mentioned this on a previous video, the S value max down here. And all that right there must be set to 1,000. And sometimes if it's set lower than 1,000, then it will basically put a governor on the max power for your machine. And so even though you go to your machine and you're looking and you're seeing that, like up here, we're seeing a max power, speed of 150 and a max power of 100% power. If this is set to a lower than 1,000, that's like a governor that's going to retard the output of your power. So you might think you're pushing 100, but you might be only doing 75 or 50, depending on the value of that S value max. So be sure that that is set to 1,000. And that will make a difference as well. So yeah, we're doing some good stuff here and playing around and learning a lot of things with the Lightburn software, with the little K10 Wainlux that I end up having. And yeah, I'm just kind of enjoying it. It's fun, especially doing metal. Like I said, we're going to do this one today, or that one that's in there right now. And the other one I'm going to end up doing is this here, which is going to be this knife blade. And this is just a little Gerber knife blade, little Gerber folding knife. And what I ended up doing is a little bit of engraving. You can see I ended up there, and yeah, that came out like awesome. And then I did another little veteran thing on the back, which we got there. So that turned out really nice. I could have made it a little bit bigger. But what I'm going to end up doing on this blade, if you know, kind of like the etchings for like the Japanese blades, where they make the Japanese swords, the katanas, and they fold the metal and they pound it, and then they fold the metal and they pound it, and then they do the etching and you get all those cool designs on there. Well, I'm going to try to do that. I found a graphic and I'm going to process that kind of like what we did with the ImageR software. And so I'm going to try to do this. That'll be the next project, to see if I can get that graphic on here and try to do both sides, which I think would be really cool. And we'll see how that turns out. I mean, I've never done it before, but hell, I've got an engraver, why not? So yeah, that's what we got going on. And the other thing that I just got in, as I said in the previous video, is I ended up getting some coasters made out of slate. And you can bet this guy over here, these Warhammer guys, I'm going to have some Warhammer coasters. So we will do a test grid on the back of the coasters to make sure that we can dial in the settings for engraving slate. And then we'll be able to pick and see, okay, which one is really nice. And then we'll just go to town and we'll make some Warhammer coasters. And that'll be really cool. I've got like 12 of those. My wife wants some flowery daisy coasters, so we're going to make some, some pretty ones. But then we're going to have the manly Warhammer night guy coasters. So that's what we got going on with that. So yeah, that'll be pretty cool. And this is going to go on for quite some time for our engraving. So yeah, it's going to be a while. And in the previous one, what I ended up doing with this side, which was at 100, come on, focus. So you can see that's what I ended up. Of course, I kind of scratched some stuff, but the color came out really good on that. So it's pretty shiny. But on this one here, you can see that it's kind of almost like a sepia color. But I did this at 200, and so I think that's why we didn't get as shiny of a finish on that. And so what we're going to do is we're going to split the difference, and on this one that we're engraving down here, we're doing 150 at 100%. So we'll see how that goes. Anyway, that's what we got going on, doing some engraving. Laser engraving is pretty cool. And what I found out is that on Facebook, of course, there's Facebook pages for everything under the sun, and even stuff that's kind of weird and out there in left field. But anyway, we won't talk about that stuff. But there are some great groups out there if you're just getting into laser engraving, and people will offer good information. You still got a few knuckleheads. You know, it's social media. What do you expect? But generally what I found is a lot of people that love the hobby, they like helping, and they'll put out, and there's a number of places that have free files that you can download as well. And, you know, think about this. You know, people are like, well, I don't know, you know, what I want, and like the Warhammer figures or, you know, some other stuff. Now you have AI so that you can generate a graphic by typing in text, and boom, you could have a retro, you could have a color, you could have grayscale, you could, you know, whatever it is. You're pretty much limited only by your imagination and whatever, you know, content controls that the program has for the AI. You know, you can't put assault rifle because most of those places, oh, you can't do that against community rules. But if you put soldier with gear, full gear, it'll pop up with a graphic that shows a soldier with the helmet, the LBV, and an M16 or an M4 or whatever. So the fact that you can't use certain words, yeah, it's just kind of stupid in my opinion. But yeah, that's what we got going on. So anyway, that's going to be it. Yeah, again, we'll just take a look at our engraving that we got going on. Engraving on metal. And that's going to be another, yeah, about 4 hours and 10 minutes. So we're not gonna continue the live stream until this is done. But if you enjoyed anything in this video, please feel free to like and subscribe to the channel, because we're going to be doing more laser engraving stuff. We'll be doing more resin printing someday, because now I'm kind of like off on this. And then we'll get back to painting miniatures someday, and then maybe even FDM printers. And yeah, it's just a mishmash of hobby technology stuff, and that's kind of what I do. The Varied Life. I'm Steve, the retired hobby technician. So as I'm retired in Korea, we're just going to have some fun over here, do some hobbies, do some stuff, and share some information to help other people kind of lessen the learning curve when it comes to doing stuff like laser engraving, which is kind of cool. I didn't think I'd like it as much as I do, but I do. It is really, really fun. A lot of projects, and like I said, coasters and this and that, and metals and the whole 9 yards. I got the bug. So, and if you like any other part of this video, and if you feel the need, you can buy me a coffee by checking the link in the description box down below. And if there's any companies or businesses out there that would like me to review a 3D printer, resin printer, laser engravers, some hobby tech stuff like that, shoot me an email at officialthevariedlife@gmail.com. I would appreciate that. But if you can't buy me coffee, or you don't want to buy me a coffee, that's absolutely cool. Please give me a like and subscribe. So that way we can appease the YouTube gods, and they won't fire firebolts at me and make my life miserable. We wouldn't want that. So if you got any questions, concerns, put them in the comment section down below, and we will see you on the next video. Peace. Good stuff. I think it's going to come out well.